Hello and welcome to The Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a topic that I think hits home for just about everyone listening. How to learn English when you are incredibly busy. I mean, we're talking about a schedule that feels less like a calendar and more like a game of Tetris gone wrong.
That's a great way to put it.
You've got a demanding career, family responsibilities, maybe you're even studying something else. And the idea of adding Learn English to that list feels, well, impossible.
It can feel completely overwhelming.
So this deep dive is for you. We're going to break down how you can make real, meaningful progress in English without having to sacrifice your sanity or, your sleep.
And the key really is a fundamental shift in thinking. We have to move away from this old idea of the formal study session.
The 2-hour block you have to find somewhere.
Exactly. That's not the world we live in. This is all about a lifestyle integration approach. It's about weaving learning into the fabric of your day, not trying to stitch on a huge extra patch of time that you just don't have.
I love that. Lifestyle integration. So let's start there, because I think the biggest mental block for people is that old model.
It is.
This big myth that if you're not sitting down for at least an hour with your books open and your highlighters out, then you're not really learning.
Yes. That belief holds so many people hostage. It creates this feeling that you have to wait.
Wait for what, though?
Wait for that perfect time, that mythical future where work calms down or the kids are older or life just magically becomes less chaotic.
Which, spoiler alert, never actually happens.
It never happens. And even if it did, trying to cram 4 hours of study into a Saturday is honestly a recipe for burnout and for forgetting almost everything by Monday.
So what does the actual science say? Because this isn't just a convenience thing, right? There's research behind why this old model is flawed.
Oh, absolutely. The research in language acquisition and memory is incredibly clear on this. The single most important insight for a busy learner is this. Frequency always trumps duration.
So more often is better than longer.
Much better. Your brain is wired to retain information more effectively through short, regular exposures. Think of it like little and often. Those big, exhausting marathon sessions actually work against how your memory is designed to function.
That feels so counterintuitive, especially in a professional setting where we're used to, the all-day training seminar.
It does, but it comes down to cognitive load. When you just flood your brain with hours of new vocabulary and grammar rules, you're overloading your short-term memory.
Like trying to fill a glass from a fire hose.
Perfect analogy. Most of it just splashes out. It never gets a chance to consolidate, to move from short-term into solid, long-term memory.
And this is where the concept of spaced repetition comes in.
Yeah.
Most people have probably heard the term, maybe in the context of flashcard apps.
Exactly. And it's a cornerstone of memory science. The whole idea is that you strengthen a memory by forcing your brain to retrieve it right at the point you're about to forget it.
So it's that effort of remembering that makes it stick.
It's the effort. That little struggle strengthens the neural pathway. If you review something 10 times in an hour, there's no struggle. The information is still right there at the front of your mind. But if you review it for a minute today, a minute tomorrow, and a minute in 3 days...
Now you're forcing your brain to work a little to find it again.
And that's what builds a strong, durable memory. A 5-minute session today and 5 minutes tomorrow is scientifically superior to a single 10-minute session.
That is genuinely liberating news for anyone with a packed schedule.
It is. And if you need a simple way to think about it, just look at the childhood analogy.
How kids learn their first language.
Right. They don't have 2-hour grammar lessons. Their learning is constant, it's fragmented, it's integrated into everything they do. A quick question here, snippet of conversation there.
They're immersed in these tiny learning moments all day long.
Precisely. And while we can't replicate that full childhood immersion, we can absolutely replicate the principle of high-frequency fragmented exposure. That's the key.
Okay, so if we've busted the myth of the long study session, the next logical question is, where do we find these magical little moments? You have to do an audit, a real, honest-to-goodness audit of your day, because I think most people would be shocked to find out where their time is actually going.
They really would be. These pockets of time are hiding in plain sight. You just need to know what you're looking for.
So where do we start looking? What are the main categories of these, as you call them, stolen moments?
The first place to look is in your transition moments. These are those little gaps between activities. 3 to 5 minutes, usually.
Like the time it takes for your computer to boot up.
Yeah.
Or waiting for the coffee machine.
Exactly. Or putting on your shoes, walking from your car to the office door, the few minutes you wait for a meeting to start. They're everywhere. And because they feel too short to do real work, we usually just waste them.
Right. Mindless phone scrolling.
The default for everything. The second category is mindless activities. These are the things you do on autopilot.
So chores. Doing the dishes, folding laundry, vacuuming.
Yes. Or your commute if you're on a train. Even exercise, like going for a run or a walk. Your hands and body are busy, but your mind is largely free. That's prime real estate for audio learning.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the third category?
Waiting periods. And we do a ton of waiting. Waiting in line at the grocery store, waiting at the doctor's office, waiting to pick up your kids from school.
Unpredictable chunks of time. Could be 2 minutes, could be 20.
Right. And again, what's our default? We pull out the phone and scroll. But if you have your learning material prepped and ready to go, that waiting time becomes productive time.
And that brings us to the fourth one, which is probably the most uncomfortable one for people to look at.
The digital time wasters.
Yeah. This requires some brutal honesty. You have to look at your phone's screen time report and see how much time is really going to social media, news feeds, random videos.
It's often shocking. For many people, it's an hour, 2 hours a day, just in those little 5-minute increments of scrolling. We're not saying you have to eliminate it entirely, but what if you could repurpose just half of that time?
That's a huge amount of time right there.
It is. When people do this audit, they almost always find between 1 and 3 hours of this scattered, potentially usable time in their day.
1 to 3 hours. That's incredible.
And again, the goal isn't to turn all 3 hours into intense study you'd burn out in a day. The realistic goal is to capture just 30 to 60 minutes of it in those tiny fragments.
And 30 minutes a day. That really adds up.
It compounds. 30 minutes a day is 3.5 hours a week. It's over 180 hours in a year. That's like a full intensive university semester of language study, all done in time that you previously thought didn't exist.
Wow. Okay, so when you frame it like that, it feels not just possible, but incredibly powerful.
That's the magic of it.
So we found the time. Now we need the method. How do we actually use a 3-minute gap effectively? This brings us to microlearning.
Exactly. Microlearning is the art and science of breaking a learning goal into the smallest possible digestible pieces, chunks that can fit into those tiny time slots we just found.
I think a lot of professionals might be skeptical here. We're told constantly that task switching is inefficient. Doesn't starting and stopping all the time have high cognitive cost?
That's a fantastic question, and it's a crucial point. The secret to effective microlearning is to make the task a single, low-friction, closed loop.
What do you mean by closed loop?
It means the task has a clear start and a clear end, and it doesn't require a lot of mental spin-up time. Trying to write a complex report in a 5-minute gap, that's inefficient because of the high context switching cost.
Right.
But reviewing 3 vocabulary flashcards, or listening to one 60-second news headline, that's a perfect microtask. It's high reward, low cognitive load. You're in, you're out, you've accomplished something specific.
It eliminates that resistance to starting because the task isn't intimidating.
Precisely. You're not trying to climb a mountain, you're just taking one step.
Okay, let's get really practical then. Let's talk about some specific microlearning techniques. First up, the 5-minute vocabulary builder.
This is a classic for a reason. But it's about using the tools strategically. We're talking about apps like Anki, Memrise, Quizlet. The power isn't just the app, it's the spaced repetition algorithm behind it.
So it's not just a random stack of digital cards. The app is actually calculating when you're most likely to forget a word and then showing it to you.
That's the intelligence. It makes your 5 minutes of review hyper-efficient. When you're waiting for the elevator, you pull out your phone, and instead of opening Instagram, you open your flashcard app and review the 10 words the algorithm knows you need to see today.
And doing that consistently, 10 words a day is 70 words a week. That's huge.
It's massive, and the retention rate is so much higher than if you tried to cram 70 words in one sitting.
Okay, so that covers vocabulary input. What about active practice? Actually using the language. Let's talk about the single sentence practice.
I love this one. It's so powerful, and it requires 0 extra time and 0 technology. The rule is simple. In any given moment, construct just one good English sentence about your immediate surroundings or situation.
So if I'm stuck in traffic, I'd think to myself,
You might think, this traffic is frustrating, but it will probably clear up in the next 5 minutes. Or, I should have left 10 minutes earlier to avoid this congestion.
I see. So you're forcing your brain to actively form a thought in English, not just translate one from your native language.
You are bypassing the translation step, which is a major hurdle for so many learners. You are training yourself to think in English, which is the foundation of fluency. It's a Tiny mental workout you can do 100 times a day.
That's a great one. What about listening? That's often a big weakness. How do you practice that in just 3 minutes? Let's call it the 3-minute listen.
The key here is to lower your expectations. You're not aiming for 100% comprehension. You're aiming for exposure.
So you're not supposed to understand every word.
Not at all. Have a short podcast or a news clip queued up and ready to go. When you have 3 minutes, just listen. Focus on the rhythm, the intonation, the melody of the language. Pick out the words you do know.
You're training your ear, not taking a test.
Exactly. It's low-pressure immersion. Over time, that constant exposure makes the speed and sound of native speech feel normal and less intimidating. Your brain starts to pick up the patterns subconsciously.
And for a final one, let's connect the language back to the real world with the photo description game.
This is a fun one. We all have a powerful camera in our pocket. During your day, if you see something interesting, a strange sign, a busy street scene, just snap a quick photo.
Okay, I have the photo. Now what?
Later, when you had a 2-minute gap, pull up that photo and just describe it out loud if you can, or just type it into a notes app. In this picture, there is a man in a red coat walking a small dog.
You're forcing yourself to use descriptive vocabulary.
You're linking language directly to a concrete personal visual memory. That makes the vocabulary so much stickier than just seeing a word on a list. It connects the abstract word to a real-world experience.
So we have the time and we have the techniques. Now we need the system to make it all happen automatically. This is where habit stacking comes in.
Yes. This is probably the most powerful strategy for sustainability. The idea is simple. You attach the new behavior you want, your microlearning tasks, to a habit you already do without thinking.
So you're piggybacking on an existing routine.
You're leveraging the momentum of an established habit.
Yeah.
It takes the willpower out of the equation because you're not creating a new moment in your day. You're just inserting something into an existing one.
But you have to be smart about it.
Right.
You can't stack listening to a complex podcast on top of, say, writing an important email.
That's the critical distinction. You have to match the cognitive load. Low-focus habits are for learning. High-focus habits need to be protected.
Okay, so let's walk through a typical day. Let's start with morning routines.
Most morning routines are on autopilot. Brushing your teeth, for example. That 2 minutes is perfect for listening to a short English news summary podcast.
Or in the shower.
The shower is a fantastic place for output practice. You're alone, you're not distracted. You can do pronunciation drills. You can practice your single sentence by narrating what you're doing. You can even sing an English song you're trying to learn.
And over breakfast, instead of scrolling through social media?
Swap that for reading one short article in English on a topic you enjoy. It's a direct substitution of a low-value habit for a high-value one.
Okay, next step. The commute. The mobile classroom.
This depends on how you commute. If you're driving, your eyes are busy, so it has to be audio, podcasts, audiobooks, but you can also do active practice.
Self-talk.
Self-talk is your superpower in the car. Narrate your drive. Plan your day out loud. Practice a presentation. You have a private soundproof booth on wheels. Use it.
And if you're on a bus or a train?
Then you have more options. You can read, you can write in a notes app, you can use your flashcard apps, you can watch downloaded videos. Public transport is a goldmine for focused learning time. You just have to have the material ready to go before you leave the house.
Let's talk about exercise time. I've heard there's a real connection between movement and memory.
There is. Research shows that learning during light physical activity, like walking or running, can improve retention. So listening to an English podcast while you're on a walk is a fantastic combination.
And what about at the gym?
If you're on a treadmill or a stationary bike, you can watch a show in English with subtitles. Your body is on autopilot, freeing up your mind to absorb the language.
And then there are household chores. Folding laundry, doing the dishes.
The perfect time for background listening. Just have English news or a podcast playing. You're not trying to focus intensely. You're just letting the sounds and rhythms of the language wash over you. It builds your ears' stamina.
Could you do something more active?
Absolutely. You can narrate your chores. Now I'm putting the plates in the dishwasher. Or folding laundry is a fantastic time to have a call with a language exchange partner. Your hands are busy, which actually makes a lot of people feel less self-conscious when they speak.
And finally, the evening wind down. This is when willpower is at its lowest.
It is. So you have to replace the default habit, which is often mindless scrolling, with a low-effort English activity.
Like what?
Read one chapter of a book you enjoy in English, watch one 20-minute episode of a TV show, or, my personal favorite, Write just 3 sentences in an English journal about your day. It consolidates your thoughts and the day's learning right before you sleep, which is fantastic for memory.
So we know when and how to fit it in. Let's talk about what to study. With such limited time, you can't afford to waste it on material that isn't effective.
This is so critical. You need to be ruthless about your content selection. And the guiding principle here is what we call the comprehensible input sweet spot, or more simply, I+1.
Okay, break that down for us. I is my current level.
I is what you already know. The +1 is the new stuff. Your material should be just a little bit beyond your current level. Challenging enough to make you grow, but not so hard that you get frustrated and give up.
Is there a rule of thumb for that?
The good guideline is that you should understand about 70 to 95% of what you're reading or listening to. If you understand less than 70%, you're basically drowning. You're spending all your energy just trying to stay afloat, not moving forward.
And if you understand more than 95%, it's too easy. You're not learning anything new.
Exactly, you're just reviewing, which has some value, but it's not efficient for acquisition. Finding that I+1 zone is the biggest efficiency hack there is.
And on top of that, there's the strategy of interest-based learning.
Yes, this isn't just about making it fun. This is about neuroscience. When you are genuinely interested in a topic, whether it's cooking or finance or video games, your brain pays more attention.
You're more engaged.
You're more engaged, which means your memory encoding is stronger, you learn the vocabulary that's actually relevant to your life and work, and you're far more likely to stick with it because it doesn't feel like a chore. It just feels like pursuing your hobby, but in English.
That makes a ton of sense. But, when I'm busy, I feel this pressure to always consume new things. But you're saying that repetition with purpose is actually a good thing.
It's not just a good thing. For a busy learner, it's essential. When your time is fragmented, you don't always have the mental energy to tackle something completely new.
So rewatching a movie or re-listening to a podcast is actually a smart strategy.
It's a very smart strategy. The first time you listen, you're just trying to get the main idea. The cognitive load is high. But the second or third time, you already know the plot. Your brain is free to notice the details.
So you can focus on specific things, like how they link their words together or a particular grammar structure you didn't catch the first time.
Precisely. You're using the same piece of content to learn different things. For a movie, you could watch it once with subtitles in your own language to get the story, then again with English subtitles to match the sounds to the words.
And then a third time with no subtitles at all to test your pure listening comprehension.
Yes. You're extracting the maximum possible value from that one piece of content. That is the definition of efficient learning.
Okay, this is all fantastic for input, but we have to talk about the elephant in the room for busy learners. Output. Speaking and writing.
Yes. This is the hardest part to fit in, and it's where most people get stuck. They end up with this big imbalance where they can understand a lot but can't produce the language themselves.
They have great passive knowledge, but no active fluency. So how do we fix that without needing to schedule a 2-hour conversation every day?
We use the same principle.
Yeah.
We integrate it into the 0 extra time moments, and the single most powerful tool for this is self-talk in English.
So just talking to myself.
Talking to yourself silently in your head or out loud if you're alone in the car or at home. Narrate what you're doing. Okay, now I am making coffee. I need to finish this report before my 10 a.m. meeting.
It sounds so simple.
It's simple, but it is incredibly powerful. You are constantly activating the language pathways in your brain. You're practicing grammar, retrieving vocabulary, and building fluency, all with 0 pressure and 0 scheduling.
And we can use technology to kind of capture and review that self-talk, right? With things like voice messages and audio journals.
Yes. Instead of just thinking it, record it. Use a voice recorder app and make a 60-second summary of your day in English. Or send a voice note to a language partner.
And the benefit of recording is that you can listen back to it.
And that's the key. When you listen back, you hear your own mistakes. You notice your pronunciation issues, your hesitations. It's a powerful feedback loop that you can do entirely on your own time.
For writing, it's a similar idea, using the phone's Notes app for writing in transit.
Right. When you're waiting in that line, instead of scrolling, open a note and write 3 sentences about what you see around you. Or draft a practice email. It keeps the writing muscles active without needing a huge block of time.
What about actual interaction with other people?
For that, the busy professional's best friend is asynchronous communication. Apps like Tandem or HelloTalk are perfect for this.
Because you don't have to be online at the same time?
Exactly. You send a text or a voice message when you have a free moment. Your partner replies when they have a free moment. It's a conversation that happens over the course of a day or a week, perfectly fitting into those little gaps in your schedule.
But even with all these great techniques, I imagine there's still a place for a real live conversation.
Oh, absolutely. We have to stress the value of scheduled sessions. Even just one 30-minute focused conversation a week with a tutor or a language partner can be transformative.
Because it puts you on the spot.
It puts you under a little bit of healthy pressure. You have to perform in real time. That's what pulls all of your passive knowledge together and turns it into active fluency. You should treat that 30-minute appointment like a critical work meeting. It's non-negotiable.
Let's talk more about technology. You've mentioned a few apps, but technology can be a huge distraction as well. It's a real double-edged sword.
It is. The strategy has to be about making technology work for you, not against you. It's about turning distraction time into learning time.
We've already talked about the vocabulary apps with their spaced repetition algorithms, which are obviously essential.
Indispensable. They automate your review schedule for maximum efficiency.
And podcast apps are key for downloading audio, so you're not dependent on having a good internet connection when you find a spare moment.
Right. And for reading, there are apps like Newsela that offer the same article at different difficulty levels. This allows you to perfectly control your input and stay in that I+1 sweet spot.
But let's get into some of the more integrated tech, the things that can turn your existing computer time into learning time. Let's start with browser extensions.
These are game changers. An extension like Language Reactor can add dual language subtitles to Netflix and YouTube, so you see the English subtitles and your native language subtitles at the same time. It's an incredible learning tool.
So you're not just passively watching, you're actively comparing the structure and vocabulary.
Exactly. Or an extension like Toucan, which will randomly change a few words on any website you visit into English. So as you're reading the news, you're forced to do these little micro-decodings all day long.
That's a brilliant way to sprinkle in review. What about our devices themselves?
A very simple but powerful trick. Change the language of your phone, your computer, and your smart speaker to English.
Oh, that's brave.
It feels brave at first, but think about it. You're forcing yourself to use practical, everyday English for tasks you do dozens of times a day. Hey Siri, what's the weather? Alexa, set a timer for 15 minutes. It's constant, low-stakes practice.
That's a really smart hack. And what about social media? Should we just try to avoid it?
For most people, avoiding it isn't realistic, so instead, you should transform it.
How?
Curate your feed. Follow accounts related to your hobbies or your profession that post only in English. Change the app's language setting to English. And most importantly, engage. Leave comments in English. Make short posts in English. Turn that mindless scroll into active practice.
So it's about optimizing the digital habits you already have, not trying to create entirely new ones.
That's the whole philosophy in a nutshell.
We've laid out a really comprehensive practical system, but I think for a lot of high achievers, the biggest hurdles are actually psychological, the mindset.
Without a doubt. The best system in the world will fail if the mindset isn't right.
So let's talk about the first big one, perfectionism and the fear of making mistakes. This is huge for professionals who are used to being experts in their field.
It's a massive barrier. It can feel really uncomfortable to be a beginner again, to sound clumsy or make basic errors. But you have to radically redefine what an error is.
It's not a failure.
It's not a failure. It is data. An error is simply a signpost telling you exactly what you need to work on next. The only real failure is not trying because you're afraid of being imperfect. Fluency is built on a mountain of mistakes. You have to be willing to make them.
Then there's the flip side, frustration with slow progress. When you're only working in 5-minute chunks, it's hard to see the day-to-day improvement.
It can feel like you're not going anywhere. That's why you have to find ways to make your progress visible.
How do you do that?
Keep a simple log. Write down the new words you learn. Once a month, go back and try to read an article or listen to a podcast that was too hard for you before. You will be amazed at how much easier it is. You have to look back to see how far you've come.
That's great advice. And the third one is guilt. Feeling like you're being selfish by taking this time for yourself.
Especially for parents or people with a lot of family responsibilities. But this is a reframe we have to make. Learning is not a selfish act. It's an investment.
An investment in your career, which helps your family.
And you're modeling the importance of lifelong learning for your children. It's a form of self-care that makes you a more capable, resilient person that benefits everyone around you.
So once we get the mindset right, How do we make the system truly sustainable in the long run?
The goal is to build a system that runs on habit, not willpower. And to do that, you have to start ridiculously small.
So small it feels silly.
Yes. Commit to just 5 minutes a day, or even just 2. So small that you can't possibly say no. Once that becomes an automatic habit, like brushing your teeth, then you can think about expanding it. Build the habit first, then worry about the volume.
And you have to plan for the fact that life is chaotic. You're going to have terrible, busy days.
You have to plan for chaos. And for those days, you need a minimum viable practice, or an MVP.
Your absolute bare minimum.
Your bare minimum. The one tiny thing you will do no matter what. Maybe it's reviewing 3 flashcards. Maybe it's saying 1 sentence in English out loud. The goal on a chaotic day is not to make progress. It's just to not break the chain. Because imperfect consistency always, always beats perfect intermittency.
It's such a powerful idea. And it all leads to this final, crucial mindset shift.
It does. You have to stop seeing learning English as a project with an end date. You're a busy person, you will probably always be a busy person.
There's no magical free time coming in the future.
There isn't. So the question has to change. It's not, when will I have time to learn English? The question is, how will I integrate English into my busy life indefinitely?
Viewing it as a permanent lifestyle enhancement, not a temporary project.
When you make that shift, the pressure disappears. You can embrace slow, steady, cumulative progress because you know you're in it for the long haul, and that is what makes it sustainable.
Wow. We've covered so much incredible practical ground today. Let's just quickly synthesize the key takeaways for everyone listening.
Good idea.
First, you have to ditch the long session myth. Your focus needs to be on frequency. Second, audit your day to find those hidden, stolen moments. They are there.
They are.
Third, use microlearning techniques and make them automatic through habit stacking.
The cornerstone.
Fourth, be strategic about your input. Always aim for that I+1 sweet spot and use repetition to get the most out of your content.
Maximum efficiency.
And fifth, don't neglect output. Use self-talk and asynchronous communication to practice speaking and writing every single day.
And as we wrap up, we want to highlight 5 key vocabulary terms from our discussion today. Really understanding these concepts will help you think more strategically about your own learning.
Great idea.
First is lifestyle integration. That's the core idea of weaving learning into your daily life rather than treating it as a separate scheduled event.
Right.
Second, spaced repetition. That's the memory technique of reviewing information at increasing intervals, right when you're about to forget it, to build strong long-term memory.
Okay.
Third is the comprehensible input sweet spot, I+1. That ideal level of difficulty where you understand most of it, but it's still challenging enough to help you grow.
The 70 to 95% rule.
Exactly. Fourth, asynchronously. This describes communication that doesn't happen in real time, like text messages or voice notes, which is perfect for busy schedules.
Makes sense.
And finally, minimum viable practice. That's the smallest possible action you commit to on your busiest days, just to maintain your consistency and keep the habit alive.
The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Or in this case, maybe it begins with a single English word integrated into your morning coffee routine. So the final thought for you is, what is the one tiny piece of English you will integrate into your day starting right now?
I love that.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found these strategies genuinely useful for your own journey. If you did, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. We'll be back soon with another deep dive. Hello. Welcome to the Learn English Lab. Now, today's podcast's second part is advanced vocabulary learning from this discussion.
And we are indeed diving deep today. We're not just looking at definitions, really. We're taking a very specialized collection of vocabulary and analyzing it.
Right.
And our mission, really, is to look at these words, and there are over 40 of them, through the lens of strategic learning, to give you, the learner, this kind of intellectual toolkit you need to stop thinking like a passive student.
And start thinking like a language architect.
That's the perfect phrase for it, a language architect.
And that distinction, between passive student and architect, it's just so crucial to get the core challenge that you face, which is, honestly, time. Time scarcity.
It's always time.
Always. But the idea that you can just clear your schedule for this huge dedicated study session is, well, for most people, it's a fantasy. It's a form of self-deception if you're juggling a career, a family, everything else.
Absolutely. It's not realistic.
So the whole approach to learning, it has to fundamentally shift. We're moving away from that brute force effort and moving towards something more sophisticated.
Highly efficient. Quality over quantity.
Exactly. And that's why we're looking at words that describe not just what you're studying, but how you're studying, the psychology of it.
The methodology.
The methodology, yes. A strategic learner needs to move beyond just, simple vocabulary flashcards. You have to embrace these concepts of long-term sustainability and strategic planning.
So this deep dive, it really starts with a kind of self-assessment, doesn't it?
It does. You have to ask yourself, are you relying only on this very volatile, limited resource we call willpower? Are you just pushing through study sessions with it?
Or have you built something better?
Or have you engineered robust, sustainable systems that work whether you feel tired or not?
And that's tied right into the idea of measurement, isn't it? How do you know if your system is actually working?
Right. Are you only focused on the things you can count? The quantitative stuff, like hours logged or, word lists completed.
Exactly. Or are you also paying attention to the often neglected part, which is the qualitative side?
The feeling.
The feeling, those shifts in your confidence, your comfort level, how often you use a word spontaneously.
That ability to track both, the hard data and that subjective feeling of growth.
Yeah.
That seems truly fundamental to making it in the long run.
It's everything. It's the whole game. So let's start there. Let's begin by analyzing that mental battleground.
Okay.
Those feelings and traps that stop even the most motivated people from starting or, from continuing.
And it often starts with setting goals that are just way too big.
Unrealistic goals, yeah. And when we do that, we run right into this feeling of an impossible task, which is just perfectly captured by an idiom I love, to squeeze water from a stone.
It's such a great image. It's so visceral.
Yeah.
You can just picture it.
You can.
You're trying to get something valuable, water, or in our case, knowledge, by squeezing this dense, unyielding rock. It just perfectly describes a futile effort, a complete waste of energy.
Or an attempt it's just almost impossible to succeed at least with that method. And its relevance to language acquisition is huge because so many learners try to apply this futile pressure.
And what happens?
Exhaustion, burnout, and, zero actual progress. Think about the student who decides they have to be fluent in 3 months.
The classic trap.
Or the person who tries to memorize, a whole technical manual for a new job over a single weekend. They are literally trying to squeeze water from a stone. The input is too dense, the time is too short.
And the output they expect is just, it's unattainable under those conditions.
Exactly. And what's so fascinating is that the futility, it doesn't come from a lack of effort. They're trying really hard.
Oh, they're trying. They're squeezing that rock with everything they've got.
Right. The problem is the mismatch between the goal and the strategy. It's that tension between effort and efficiency.
When things are set up correctly, it should feel more like a piece of cake or easy as pie. You hear those antonyms and they suggest ease, efficiency.
And that's what we should be striving for. Setting up tasks that feel manageable or digestible, which is a word we'll get to later, not constantly feeling like you're fighting a rock.
Okay, so that heavy feeling of impossibility, that can leave a learner really vulnerable to these mental traps.
Mental traps that the strategic learner has to be able to recognize and then dismantle. Which brings us to another powerful word, the figurative use of hostage.
That's a compelling image. I mean, the literal meaning is a captive, a prisoner held for ransom. But how does this apply figuratively to learning?
Well, we become held hostage by our own limiting beliefs. For instance, this false conviction that you're too old to learn.
Or that you don't have the language gene.
Yes, exactly. These are not facts. They are just thoughts, but they are thoughts that actively imprison your ability to take any constructive action.
So if you believe you're just fundamentally bad at grammar,
then that belief traps you. It holds you hostage, preventing you from even opening the grammar book. You become a prisoner of your own limiting story.
And what are these captive individuals waiting for? I think I know the answer.
They're waiting for a mythical moment. The adjective mythical, meaning something that exists only in your imagination. It's legendary or just not real.
This one is so devastating for the busy learner.
It really is. They are held hostage by this mythical idea that, one day their schedule will just magically clear up.
The house will be silent.
The kids will be quiet and they'll have this massive, uninterrupted 4-hour block of pure energy to finally start studying seriously.
But that mythical future, it never ever arrives, does it?
It never materializes. It's an imaginary ideal. And it's an ideal that allows procrastination to flourish, but under this very clever disguise of preparation.
So the strategic move is to dismantle that myth.
You have to. And you have to start now, imperfectly.
But when you start imperfectly, or when you're fighting against that initial friction of those limiting beliefs, the path can be, well, it can be pretty rough. Progress is almost never linear.
It's rarely as fast as we'd like, that's for sure. And that means we inevitably have to deal with discouragement.
Right.
Discouragement, it's that natural human feeling of lost confidence or lost hope in a long-term process. But the key is to see it as an expected waypoint, not the final destination.
So if you track your progress for 2 weeks and see just a tiny quantitative improvement, it's okay to feel discouraged.
It's perfectly normal. The danger is letting that temporary feeling become permanent.
So the key isn't to somehow eliminate discouragement, because you can't. It's about managing what comes before it.
Yeah.
We need to identify the trigger.
Yes. Trigger as a verb, meaning to cause something to start or happen.
Triggers the discouragement?
Exactly. We have to identify what consistently triggers discouragement for you specifically. Is it comparison? Is it scrolling through social media and seeing all these polyglots and feeling inadequate?
I think that's a big one for a lot of people.
It's huge. Or is it failing a certain kind of practice test? If the trigger is external, like comparing yourself to a native speaker, you can manage that. You can limit that exposure and focus only on your own metrics.
But if the trigger is just the slow pace of it all,
then you need to recalibrate your expectations. You need to adjust to a more sustainable, almost glacially slow pace, which is a word we're definitely going to discuss later.
and often, even before the discouragement hits, we face that initial wall, that feeling of resistance.
Yes, the noun resistance. It describes that mental reluctance, that friction you feel when you know you should do the task, but your brain is just actively pushing back. Ugh, I don't want to.
That's the feeling.
That mental friction, that resistance, is the energy drain that makes relying on willpower so flawed.
And willpower is just self-discipline, right? Mental strength.
The power to control your behavior, overcome temptation. But I think we often overestimate our own willpower. We treat it like it's this endless tank of fuel.
When really it's a finite resource. It drains throughout the day.
It's exactly like that. Behavioral science often compares it to a muscle that gets tired. If you have to use a massive amount of willpower just to overcome the resistance to open the book,
You're already tired before you've even started.
you've depleted your reserves. By the time you start the actual cognitive work of learning, you're running on empty. And this can lead to what they call decision fatigue. You've exhausted your mental strength just deciding to study.
So the study itself is going to be inefficient.
Deeply inefficient. So yeah, the really strategic learner, they're not just, gritting their teeth and forcing it. They're building systems, routines, habits that make the task so tiny and so easy that the initial mental resistance is practically gone.
Which preserves that precious willpower for the really high-value stuff, like retention and application.
That's the psychological shift we're aiming for. It's a total change in mindset.
Okay, so once we've navigated those psychological hurdles, let's move from the mental battlefield to the practical side, building the learning plan.
Yes, let's build. And we have to start with the bedrock. We have to start with what is fundamental.
Fundamental. So something that's essential, basic.
Right.
It forms the necessary foundation, the non-negotiable core.
Right. In language acquisition, if you try to skip the fundamental steps, it's like trying to build a skyscraper without pouring the concrete foundation first.
It's doomed to fail.
It's going to collapse. You have to establish the most frequent vocabulary, the essential grammar structures, the basic conversational patterns. You have to do that before you move to complexity.
And if you jump straight into, say, advanced philosophical essays without those fundamentals,
The entire experience will just leave you feeling completely baffled.
which is a state we want to avoid. So once that basic framework is in place, the focus shifts to how the brain actually processes all this new information. And that's the realm of the cognitive.
The adjective cognitive, yes. It relates directly to all those mental processes. Thinking, understanding, learning, remembering.
The goal isn't just to pile up facts then.
No, not at all. It's to improve your cognitive function itself. Reading a lot, for example, it improves your attention span, your ability to infer meaning, your long-term memory retrieval. So when we talk about strategic learning, we're talking about intentionally designing activities that challenge and develop your cognitive abilities.
And for those cognitive systems to even work effectively,
Hmm.
the material we choose, it has to be comprehensible.
Right. The material has to be understandable, but also just slightly challenging. That's the sweet spot. That's what's known as comprehensible input.
And this concept, it feels like it really separates the efficient learners from the ones who struggle.
It really does. Because if the content is 100% familiar, you learn nothing new. There's no challenge, no cognitive growth.
But if the material is way too far above your current level, say half the words are new,
Then it's no longer comprehensible. You just hit a wall of frustration, and your brain's default response is to just shut down.
because if it's that far outside your comfort zone, you immediately enter that state of being baffled.
And baffled is a very strong word. It means you're completely confused, utterly puzzled,
Yeah.
mystified.
If more than just a little confused.
Oh, much more. If you feel baffled, that's a critical signal. It's a sign that you need to retreat, simplify the input, and make sure the material is more digestible.
And I love that food analogy. It works so well. Digestible information is it's broken down into small, easily processed chunks.
Exactly. If I hand you a 300-page textbook and say, memorize this, it's indigestible. But if I give you 4 words related to, I don't know, time management in a conversational context,
That's highly digestible.
very. Breaking concepts down into these small, themed, manageable chunks, it significantly reduces that initial mental resistance we talked about. And it improves the chances that your cognitive system will actually process the information successfully.
In this constant, careful consumption of digestible, comprehensible input that leads us directly to the concept of acquisition.
Right. Acquisition. The noun that distinguishes between formal learning and natural subconscious uptake.
So formal learning is sitting down, memorizing definitions from a list.
And acquisition is picking up those words naturally because you've seen them over and over in meaningful, comprehensible contexts.
And the strategic learner prioritizes acquisition.
Always. You want the language to sink in naturally through exposure, so the whole process relies less on that finite resource of willpower.
So if we're looking at strategic methods to boost acquisition, especially for vocabulary, what's the most powerful tool?
Hands down, the single most powerful tool is spaced repetition.
Okay, now this is a technical concept. We should probably expand on this for our learners because it's more than just reviewing once in a while.
Oh, much more. It's all based on something called the forgetting curve. When you learn something new, your memory of it immediately starts to decay, and very, very rapidly.
So spaced repetition is a technique that involves reviewing that information at increasing calculated intervals over time.
Precisely. So if you learn the word fundamental today, you don't just wait 2 weeks and hope you remember it. You review it perhaps tomorrow, then maybe in 3 days, then in a week, then 2 weeks.
The key is the timing.
The timing is everything. You are forcing the retrieval of that memory just as it's about to weaken. And that little struggle, that slight manageable difficulty in recalling it, that is what dramatically strengthens the neural connection and solidifies the memory.
It optimizes your effort.
It's the opposite of cramming. Massed practice, or cramming, requires enormous willpower, and what does it result in? Immediate, rapid forgetting. Spaced repetition makes memory highly efficient and almost automatic over time.
And every time you successfully recall that word, you're trying to do what? You're trying to replicate a success.
Replicate, yes. To copy or reproduce something, exactly. In learning, you are strengthening that neural pathway so that when you need the word in a real, live conversation, you can replicate that correct, effortless recall spontaneously.
So you're not rebuilding the memory from scratch each time.
No, you're just strengthening the existing structure, making it faster and more reliable.
And the entire genius of this system of spaced repetition, it all depends on doing things periodically.
Right. The adverb periodically just means happening at regular, consistent intervals. Or from time to time, but not constantly. You're revisiting the content periodically with those strategic, scientifically determined gaps.
Which is the timing you need to make the memory permanent while also conserving your energy.
It avoids the intense fatigue that would come from trying to review everything you've ever learned every single day. That would be impossible.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about the biggest constraint for the busy learner, which is almost always time.
The biggest barrier.
So if we can't rely on these big blocks of time, we have to become masters of strategic time use.
Yeah.
And that starts with identifying and using pockets of time.
Pockets of time. Those small, overlooked, seemingly insignificant intervals that are scattered all through your day.
Like 5 minutes waiting for the kettle to boil.
Or 10 minutes on the subway platform, 2 minutes while your computer loads a program. Individually, they feel useless.
But when you add them all up and you use them intentionally,
They become an incredibly powerful resource.
I remember when I first tried this concept, I was honestly shocked. I used to think, oh, I only have 15 minutes free in the morning. Then I started deliberately tracking the time I spent just, waiting for an elevator or scrolling through a news feed.
And you found more time than you thought.
I realized I could carve out another 20 minutes before my workday even started, just by replacing that mindless waiting with a really short review session.
And that leads directly to the verb you just used, to carve out time. This phrasal verb, it emphasizes deliberate, effortful, intentional action.
You're not waiting for time to appear.
No, you are actively cutting it out from other less essential activities. You have to reserve those small slots for language practice, and you have to treat them like non-negotiable appointments in your calendar.
And to successfully carve out that time, you first need to do something else. You need to audit your day.
Audit, yeah. It's a word we usually associate with finance, but here it just means a careful, meticulous examination of your daily routine. You're looking for inefficiency. You're looking for the minutes that are currently being wasted or used on low-value activities.
You're creating a time budget.
That's a great way to put it.
And when you audit your day, you realize there are these specific activities. For me, it was scrolling or passively watching low-quality videos that you can afford to eliminate.
Eliminate. To completely remove or get rid of something. And we're not talking about eliminating sleep or necessary work. We're talking about eliminating distractions and low-value time fillers.
So when you commit to using, say, 3 short, focused, 5-minute practice sessions a day in those carved-out pockets,
You successfully eliminate the most common, the most paralyzing excuse for not learning, I don't have enough time. You remove that huge mental roadblock by replacing it with tiny, achievable actions.
which minimizes the resistance.
Exactly. It all connects.
Now, this whole micro strategy, it only really works if your routines are placed on autopilot.
Right. Autopilot, figuratively, means doing something without conscious thought or intention, mechanically. The goal is to make the learning routine so habitual, like pulling out your review app the second you sit down on the bus, that the time gets used automatically.
It minimizes the reliance on daily decision-making.
You don't have to use your limited willpower to decide to study. You just do it.
And putting that routine on autopilot allows us to focus entirely on what is sustainable.
And a sustainable habit is simply one that you can maintain indefinitely, over a long period of time, without it leading to burnout or exhausting your resources.
Planning an intense 2-hour study session every single evening.
That's often unsustainable for a working professional. But studying for 15 minutes a day, every single day, that is highly sustainable. It respects your limited energy, your time, and your attention span. It's a habit you can actually live with.
This focus on sustainability is so important because it directly fights the problem of intermittency.
Intermittency, the quality of stopping and starting irregularly. This is the death knell of language acquisition. It kills progress.
The classic trap is waiting for those perfect conditions. Oh, I'll study for 4 hours this Saturday.
And then what happens? Something unexpected comes up, a family thing, or you're just tired, and that 4-hour session is missed, and then you don't touch the language again for another week. That is intermittency.
And there's a great mantra that summarizes the solution to this. Imperfect consistency beats perfect intermittency.
Absolutely. A short, imperfect practice session every single day, even if you only retain 60% of what you reviewed, is so much better than waiting for that mythical, perfect 3-hour block that you only manage to do sporadically.
It's the consistency, even in small doses, that builds those lasting cognitive pathways.
But in this pursuit of efficiency and using small pockets of time, we have to be careful not to neglect key skills.
To neglect something, to fail to give it proper care or attention.
Right. The danger for the busy learner is that they might optimize their passive learning, like listening to a podcast while they commute. That's easy to weave into a routine.
But they often neglect the active skills.
Crucial active skills, like spontaneous speaking practice or writing, simply because those activities require more dedicated focus and, frankly, a higher degree of willpower.
And speaking of that consistency, let's talk about that inevitable feeling that progress is just. It's too slow. Sometimes language improvement feels glacially slow.
That image is so powerful, glacially, describing movement that is extremely slow, like a giant sheet of ice creeping across the landscape.
It can be so frustrating, especially today in the age of instant gratification.
It can be. But the strategic perspective here is essential. Glacially slow progress is still persistent, forward movement. It is continuous.
It's not standing still.
It's not standing still. And just acknowledging that forward momentum, even if it's just one new word acquired per day, that is critical to preventing the discouragement that might otherwise trigger you to quit.
And to maximize those small, carved-out pockets, a lot of your learning has to happen asynchronously.
Yes, asynchronously, meaning not happening at the same time. The communication or interaction is not simultaneous.
So since the busy learner often can't meet a tutor synchronously, at the same time every day.
They have to utilize self-study apps, pre-recorded materials, automated spaced repetition reviews. They do all of this asynchronously during their small available time slots. That flexibility is what allows the entire sustainable system to even function.
And the final, beautiful goal of integrating all of these tiny asynchronous and periodic sessions is weaving.
Weaving. Figuratively, it's the act of smoothly integrating different elements together, like interlacing threads to make a strong fabric.
So we're talking about weaving English practice into the existing fabric of your daily life.
Into your commute, your exercise routine, your cooking time, making it a seamless, integrated, almost automatic habit rather than this separate, resisted chore that relies on enormous amounts of willpower.
Okay, so we've built the system, we've minimized the resistance, we've maximized our time. Now we have to apply the advanced thinking. It's not enough to just be busy. We have to be strategic.
Yes. Strategic means carefully designed or planned with a long-term goal in mind. A strategic learner doesn't just wander through random content.
They're purposeful.
They're very purposeful. They choose material specific to their needs. Maybe it's business vocabulary. They use evidence-based methods like spaced repetition, and they have clear quantitative goals tied directly to their personal or professional progress. They are goal-oriented, not just task-oriented.
And what makes this current learning environment so rich is that we have unprecedented opportunities.
Unprecedented, meaning something that has never happened or existed before. Just think about the technology we have today.
Instant translation. AI tutors available 24/7.
Vast searchable databases of authentic content. These tools are completely unprecedented. They fundamentally changed the language learning landscape. They offer a flexibility that was literally impossible 20 years ago.
So the challenge isn't access anymore.
No, the challenge is selecting a strategic path through this incredible wealth of options.
And a key part of being strategic involves challenging those long-held beliefs, especially the ones that hold us hostage. We have to actively dismantle old, ineffective habits or learning myths.
To dismantle, literally, it means to take something apart. But figuratively, it means destroying a false belief by demonstrating through evidence and your own experience that the idea is wrong.
So, for example, dismantling the myth that you have to live abroad to become fluent.
Exactly. With the correct strategic approach and access to all these unprecedented online resources, we can functionally achieve a deep immersion right where we are.
So if we can successfully dismantle those limiting myths and implement these strategic, sustainable habits, the one characteristic we have to cultivate is being persistent.
Persistent, the adjective for someone who continues despite difficulties, who is tenacious, relentless, but, and this is crucial, persistence is often misunderstood as just never stopping.
What is it then?
True persistence is the commitment to restarting. When progress feels glacially slow, or when you feel that pull of discouragement, persistence means you show up the next day for your short, digestible practice session, regardless of how tired you feel or how difficult it seemed yesterday.
And that persistence allows us to observe these predictable, successful outcomes, which we can categorize as a phenomenon.
A phenomenon, yeah. An observed situation or event. Something interesting that happens. For example, we observe the phenomenon that learners who consistently use asynchronous tools in their short pockets of time rapidly increase their reading speed.
So by understanding these success phenomena,
we can analyze them, we can break down their fundamental components, and then we can try to replicate those successes in our own lives.
And when you apply that persistent effort strategically to high-efficiency methods like spaced repetition, the benefit you get is enormously vast.
Enormously. It's an intense word, to a very great degree, or extremely. Busy learners benefit enormously from strategic repetition because it ensures the limited time they can carve out is used at maximum cognitive efficiency,
which yields tremendous long-term returns.
It's an enormous payoff for a relatively small, persistent daily investment.
Okay, let's think about interaction. If your strategic plan involves a human element, like a language partner,
yeah,
you have to understand the principle of reciprocity.
Reciprocity, the noun defining mutual exchange, the give and take. And this goes way beyond just you help me, I help you. Strategically, reciprocity means understanding the psychological balance.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if the exchange is always one-sided, if you constantly feel like you're taking up their time, or on the flip side, if you feel your partner is just using you as a free tutor, the arrangement will collapse.
That's a great point of nuance. An unbalanced exchange could become a huge source of mental resistance and discouragement.
It absolutely does. The feeling of being indebted or being used, it turns the partnership into a chore. And that destroys the necessary sustainability of the relationship.
So true reciprocity requires both people to feel like their efforts are valued, that the time is split fairly.
It has to be a mutually beneficial, equitable partnership, not just a simple transaction.
So once the strategy is designed, the consistency is established. How do we know if it's actually working? We need effective measurement. And that brings us to accountability.
Accountability, the essential need for responsibility for your actions and decisions. You have to track your efforts.
Just tracking your daily efforts, maybe in a simple journal or an app, that inherently builds accountability.
And it prevents you from neglecting crucial tasks or, rationalizing your intermittency.
And accountability requires balanced measurement, not just one metric.
Right. First, you use quantitative measures. Quantitative relates to quantity, to numbers, things you can count.
Number of words mastered, hours practiced, pages read. Your score on a test.
This gives you the hard, undeniable data. But the danger of relying only on the quantitative is that it can feel glacially slow, especially in those middle stages.
Which is why the qualitative side is equally important.
Yes, qualitative. Relating to quality or characteristics, describing features that can't be measured with numbers.
So qualitative indicators would include what? How easily you can narrate your day.
The comfort level you feel in spontaneous conversations, descriptive feedback from a tutor, or even just your own self-reported rating of your confidence when you're writing an email.
So the strategic learner tracks both.
They have to. The quantitative data prevents denial or exaggeration of your progress, and the qualitative data prevents burnout. It fuels your emotional persistence by validating how you feel about your improvement.
Okay, we've covered a remarkable amount of ground here, from managing mental resistance all the way to setting up sustainable and strategic tracking systems. Let's finish up by looking at 3 final, actionable vocabulary terms that describe how we can actively apply all this knowledge. The eventual aspirational goal of all this planning is to get closer to immersion.
Immersion,
Yeah.
Deep involvement, being completely surrounded by the language. Now, while moving to a country where the language is spoken offers total immersion, the strategic busy learner can achieve a kind of functional immersion by intentionally flooding their environment with comprehensible English input. You set your environment on autopilot. English media becomes the default. English news is your source, and English materials are what you access during all those pockets of time.
And a really practical technique for active use, especially during those asynchronous pockets of time, is to narrate.
To tell a story or describe events. This technique is so often overlooked, but it's enormously valuable. You should try narrating your daily activities as they happen.
Out loud.
Silently or softly is fine. What you're doing right now, what you see, what you plan to do next, do it in English. This forces immediate active language retrieval. It bypasses the translation step in your brain and requires you to use your cognitive skills on the fly.
And the outcome of successful, persistent narration practice, combined with the strategic use of spaced repetition, is that feeling of spontaneous fluency.
Spontaneous, happening naturally without planning, spur of the moment. So while your overall learning strategy is highly planned and designed, the goal is for your language output to feel natural and automatic.
You want to reduce the mental resistance and the hesitation that comes with speaking.
And move from that conscious, heavy effort to natural, spontaneous expression. That right there is the definition of true fluency.
So to bring all this together, the cognitive functions, the persistence, the strategic planning, the focus on sustainability, let's do a quick review. 5 core study tips that really encapsulate these advanced concepts we've discussed today.
Okay, first, use spaced repetition. This is fundamental for efficient, long-term memory acquisition, leveraging those periodic review sessions we talked about.
Second, create personal, relevant sentences with your new vocabulary. This turns an abstract definition into something that's relevant and digestible for your brain, and that dramatically improves retention.
Third, group your words by theme. Studying related words together enhances the cognitive links between them. It improves your retrieval speed and promotes more natural, spontaneous usage.
Fourth, practice actively. Do not neglect production. Use these words in your speaking and writing right away, even if you just narrate your commute. You have to build that automatic recall and reduce mental resistance.
And fifth, notice these new words in context. This is what transforms simple memorization into genuine language acquisition. It's the path that guides you from feeling baffled by new material to finding that content immediately comprehensible.
So what does this entire deep dive tell us? We came here to discuss advanced vocabulary, but I think we realized that the truly advanced learning tool is the mindset. If you can dismantle that mythical idea of perfect study time and instead implement these strategic, sustainable habits, auditing your time and weaving practice into your daily life.
Even if your daily progress feels slow.
Even if your daily quantitative progress feels glacially slow, you have to remember that measuring that tiny, minuscule step forward can qualitatively change your entire perception of success. That recognition of incremental growth, that's the ultimate strategic victory. And it's what fuels the persistence you need to keep going.
Remember, each new word you master brings you one step closer to fluency. We hope this deep dive was enormously beneficial and provided you with the actionable tools needed to achieve high-level language acquisition. If you enjoyed this advanced vocabulary discussion, please like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Happy learning!